Hi guys. Sorry I didn't make a other video yesterday. So what are you doing? Let's do 7 times failing to until went totally wrong.
China is the greatest threat to America's future. They want to beat us economically and militarily. The anti-tech agenda in Washington will help China win. Well,
7. Too pretty for prison. Lauren Cutshaw was pulled over in August of 2018 for speeding. The officer who pulled her over claimed that Cutshaw was straight up belligerent drunk. However, Cutshaw claimed that she only had 2 glasses of wine that entire evening. The story is pretty standard so far. Someone gets pulled over and tries to talk their way out of getting a ticket or getting arrested. The dash cam footage, however, revealed an interesting take. Cutshaw trying to talk her way out of possible jail time by claiming that she was too pretty to be arrested. The 34-year-old former cheerleader and real estate agent told the arresting officer that she was a clean, thoroughbred white girl. Her blood alcohol levels were found to be 0.18%, and she was escorted back to the squad car in handcuffs. While being led to the car, Cutshaw made repeated claims that her partner was also an officer, that she belonged to a good neighborhood, how she used to be a cheerleader and was in a sorority, and how she should not be taken into custody because she was too pretty to be in prison. The officer responded to her claims with, "What does that have to do with anything?" To which Cutshaw replied, "You're a cop? You know what it means," implying that she would be treated poorly by fellow prisoners because of her attractive features. Somehow, Lauren Cutshaw managed to get away with a $187 fine and court-ordered alcohol penalty. The dash cam footage of her claiming that she was too pretty for prison went viral shortly ahead of her trial. 6. Cannibal walks free. Issei Sagawa was born into a wealthy family. He was from Japan but had moved to Paris for school. In June of 1981, the unthinkable happened. One night he invited his classmate, Rene Harteveld, back to his apartment to study and to help him translate some poetry. Sagawa was a short, meek man compared to Harteveld. While Harteveld was sitting at a desk in his apartment with her back turned towards him, Sagawa shot her in the back of the head, killing her. Harteveld died immediately, and Sagawa claims that he fainted from the shock of what he had just done. When he regained consciousness moments later, he carried out his original plan to have intercourse with her corpse, dismember her, and then devour her.
Good girl,
In his
Panda.
confession, Sagawa claimed that he believed he could absorb Harteveld's energy if he ate her. But let's go back to that horrible night. Sagawa's teeth were not sharp enough to bite through Harteveld's skin and resorted to using a butcher knife to slice into her. He chopped her body up into small pieces, threw some of those pieces in a plastic bag, and stored it in the fridge. According to Sagawa's confession, he saved the fattest parts to eat later. Sagawa was caught when he tried to dump Harteveld's body that he stuffed in a suitcase nearby at a public lake. Reportedly, a suspicious person walked by him, came up to him, and demanded to know what he was carrying in his suitcase. This is where the case gets even more interesting. Not only did Sagawa confess, he provided detailed descriptions of what he wanted to do with the remaining parts of Hartenfeld's body had he not been caught. Sagawa also had a previous criminal charge of attempted rape in Japan. However, after serving less than 10 months in prison, Sagawa was released on the grounds of insanity, and his original trial was deemed as a mistrial because of unlawful psychological evaluation. The Japanese trust fund kid was deported back to Japan, where he began to live the life of a sensationalized celebrity. Because the charges in France had been dropped, the court documents were sealed and could not be released to Japanese authorities. Therefore, the Japanese had no case against Sagawa and no choice but to let him go. Sagawa became popular in his country as the man who had killed a woman and then ate her body. What is he up to today? Today, Issei Sagawa walks the streets of Tokyo, free to do as he pleases. 5. The Menendez brothers.
Can you
Joseph
believe he
Lyle
just
and Eric Galen Menendez are siblings born in 1968 and 1970, respectively. Their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, were quite wealthy in the United States from their hometown in Havana, Cuba. The couple maintained their lavish lifestyle in their new location. The family originally moved to New Jersey before settling in Beverly Hills, California. Both brothers received their education from Beverly Hills High. On the surface, everything seemed to be going fine in the Menendez household. Everyone had everything they could ever hope for and then some. However, something sinister was going on behind closed doors. Their father, Jose, had been sexually, physically, and emotionally abusing his sons for years. Jose would routinely threaten the boys if they ever exposed him. Kitty was allegedly an unwitting accomplice to Jose's crimes against the boys. On the evening of August 20th in 1987, Eric and Lyle came home to find their parents sleeping on the couch. The brothers first shot Jose with a single gunshot wound. Kitty woke up from the commotion and tried to escape. The boys shot her multiple times, leaving her body unrecognizable. They shot both of their parents in the knees to make the murders look mob-related. The brothers then called 911 and told them that their parents had just been killed. The police immediately considered the young men suspects but had no leads, so the police had no choice but to believe that mob leaders really were involved in the deaths of Jose and Kitty. It wasn't until Eric broke down and confessed in front of his therapist, and he subsequently revealed the confession to his mistress, that the brothers were arrested. The two brothers reportedly spent close to $1 million in the months following their parents' murder. They spent money on a dual condo, several designer cars, tennis lessons, and other extravagant purchases. While the brothers and witnesses gave evidence of sexual abuse being committed, a jury eventually found both of them guilty. Eric and Lyle Menendez were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the first-degree murder of their parents. What do you think about this case? Do you think it's fair that Joseph and Eric got life in prison after the trauma their parents put them through? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. 4. Getting away with murder. Again. Seymour Durst is known as the inventor of the National
Tiffany?
Catalog, for being one of the wealthiest men of his time, and for starting a real estate empire. His son, Robert Durst, is known for being a serial killer who got away with 3 murders: his wife's, his neighbor's, and one of his friends. Durst was born in April of 1943 as the eldest of the Durst children. Robert was in line to become the heir of the Durst organization, originally founded in 1927 by his grandfather. As a child, his therapist noted several odd behavioral tics in the boy: sibling rivalry, narcissism, and isolation, all which he received regular therapy sessions for. Durst was reportedly never interested in taking over the Durst organization, and instead started a food and wellness store in the 1970s. His father eventually called him back to New York to take over the real estate empire, but had to withdraw from his decision when he noted Robert acting inappropriately on more than one occasion. The empire was then given to his brother Douglas, and Robert was bought out of the family share of the empire for $7 million. Robert has been connected to three murders. All three began as disappearances: Catherine McCormick, Susan Berman, and Horace Black. Robert had met McCormick in 1971 while he was running his health and wellness store in Vermont. The two were married by 1973. The marriage was turbulent, to say the least. McCormick reportedly asked Durst for a divorce several times, but Durst would always blackmail her back into the relationship. In 1982, McCormick went missing after attending a party at a friend's home. She was never found. Longtime friend Susan Berman was found murdered in her home, execution style, in December of 2000. Although Durst was the last person to have allegedly met with Berman before her body was found, there was no case against him. It wasn't until Durst's neighbor, Morris Black, was dismembered in 2001 that police began looking into Durst as a possible serial killer. The trial began, and there was substantial evidence against him. However, all of it was deemed as inadmissible in court. The only conviction Durst received was for the murder of Susan Berman. Durst had been presented in court on multiple occasions: 2003, 2005, 2015, and 2020. The last of which got him a conviction of first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, bail jumping, illegally possessing a firearm, and misdemeanor criminal mischief. For decades, Durst was a free man. Now, at 78 years old, he is currently serving time in California's state prison. 3. A murderer and a philanthropist. John DuPont was born into a wealthy family and inherited a large chunk of land from his maternal grandfather. He studied science, excelled in his field, and made smart investments. In 1987, it was reported that DuPont was worth $200 million. To date, he's the only man from the Forbes 400 list to have been charged with murder. DuPont developed a 400-acre wrestling facility for amateur wrestlers at Lissitor Hall Farm in Newtown Square. The private group was known as Team Foxcatcher. The state-of-the-art facility was equipped with pools, gyms, and everything necessary for training. Dave Schultz was an Olympian freestyle training
How
wrestler
many video is this?
Schultz
Oh,
was just
16.
one of many
Okay.
freestyle wrestlers living at the wealthy philanthropist's estate in the 1990s. DuPont made it a point to have Olympians come live under his wing and train alongside some of the greatest trainers in the world. Although not a wrestler himself, DuPont was simply obsessed with the sport. In January of 1996, DuPont shot Dave Schultz 3 times. The crime was witnessed by his wife and head of security. Reportedly, DuPont acted as if nothing had really happened and just sat back in the car after committing the murder. The trial was sensationalized for several reasons: DuPont's wealth, his philanthropy, his erratic behavior leading up to the murder, and the fact that he refused to incriminate himself even with 2 eyewitnesses to the crime. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity at trial in February of 1997. The
What are you
court
doing?
eventually ruled that he was guilty, but mentally ill. For the murder of Dave Schultz, DuPont received 13 to 30 years in prison. He would have been a free man in 2026, but died in prison in 2010 at the age of 72. 2. Cameron Douglas's side career as a drug kingpin. You're probably familiar with the celebrity Michael Douglas, who has several Academy Awards and accolades to his name. He's received a hefty number of nominations and awards for his contributions in film and media throughout his career. However, his son, Cameron Douglas, received none of the fame and all of the notoriety. Cameron was training to be an actor and had several small roles in film before his arrest in 2011. He got busted in 1999 when he was found in possession of cocaine, had charged with a misdemeanor and the possession of a controlled substance. 10 years later, in 2009, Cameron was arrested after it was discovered that he was involved in a serious
Oh,
drug trafficking ring. The DEA had been working a sting on the case for
sorry
3
guys,
years
this video is
before
gonna be
arresting
long
Cameron
today.
in Manhattan. He had been caught distributing several pounds of methamphetamine out of the Manhattan hotel. Although Cameron Douglas should have gone to jail, he was placed on house arrest, probably because of who his father was. In 2010, he was found in violation of the arrest when his
Oops.
girlfriend was found smuggling drugs to him. Douglas was then sent to a maximum security prison. The next year, in 2011, he was busted once again when it was found out that he had been receiving drugs through prison routes. From 2012 to 2014, Cameron Douglas was placed in solitary confinement due to his erratic behavior, and the prison facilities claims that they could not handle the prisoner's drug use anymore. While Douglas was set to serve a longer prison sentence, he was eventually released in 2016. Cameron Douglas was released to a halfway house in August of 2016 after having spent 7 years behind bars and 2 years in segregated housing. Today, the once aspiring actor lives quietly with his long-term partner and 2 children. But is he really just living a simple life? Or has he just not been caught yet, doing something he shouldn't be doing? 1. Hanks payout. In California in August of 2015, Chester Marlon Hanks was reportedly driving while under the influence and collided with Terry Mugen's vehicle. While both drivers were unscathed by the accident and the damages were repairable, Mugen decided he wanted to pursue a legal claim against Chester and his parents, Tom Hanks and Vito Wilson. Mugen stated the grounds for his case against the Hanks family was because Chester was no stranger to making bad decisions. A self-proclaimed black sheep, Chester had been arrested and fined in 1999 in Britain for the possession of illegal substances. His ex-girlfriend was awarded a restraining order against him for verbal and physical abuse. Despite this, Mugen's claim alleges that the Hanks family facilitated Chester's behavior by allowing him to drive a vehicle knowing he was capable of inflicting harm. Mugen tried suing the Hanks family for well over $1 million, although nothing has come out of the case yet. To us, this just sounds like a bitter person coming after the son of a celebrity because they believe he'll get a big payout. What do you think? Thanks for watching. What did you think of
Alright guys, I will see you in my second video.